They probably had no idea about the hazards faced by the workers who refined the gas that kept our cars running.
By 1921, automakers have a huge problem. The engines that they use suffer from a problem that's called engine knock.
Some drivers are so startled by the sound, they sometimes lose control of their vehicles.
A scientist named Tom Midgley Jr. discovers a chemical additive he calls TEL that makes the knock go away.
Both the automobile and the oil industry are thrilled with Midgley's anti-knock solution. They immediately pour money into production facilities and start advertising its wonders.
One refinery that begins using this additive is a Standard Oil facility in the Port of New York and New Jersey.
But this is only one of countless products the refinery is constantly turning out for the diverse needs of America.
But within a year of production, they find that some of the workers start to exhibit strange maladies.
The men who work in the TEL building start to exhibit insomnia, memory loss, and these bouts of rage. One man even starts babbling deliriously, another gets taken out in a straitjacket.
And this isn't just a few workers. 65% of the workforce ends up in the hospital with some kind of mental health issue.
Workers dub the factory the Looney Gas Building.
To dismiss the concerns, Standard Oil ultimately releases a press statement saying that these men were probably driven to this because they worked too hard.
Turns out, it isn't how hard they're working, but what they're working on.
Well, you know how the chemical additive is called TEL? Well, that stands for tetraethyl lead. The people working in the factory are handling lead and inhaling its fumes all day long.
The dangers of lead exposure were already well known. In fact, dating back to 1786, Benjamin Franklin wrote a letter to a friend where he described his own experience with lead's harmful effects.
But Standard Oil is not convinced that lead is causing these issues. So they do something that most PR firms today would not recommend. They hold a press conference featuring the creator of TEL himself, Thomas Midgley.
They get Midgley there, who then just basically rinses his hands in a bowl just filled with TEL, saying like, look, I wouldn't do this if it was bad. Look at me. I'm totally fine.
Can you imagine someone doing that today? Doubtful.
Leaded gasoline still continues to be sold for the next 70 years.
For those of us who remember growing up before the mid-1990s, you will remember pulling into a gas station and being asked if you want regular or unleaded.
Most compact and imported cars can be operated on leaded, regular-grade gasoline for maximum economy.
I remember pulling in and buying regular gasoline because it was cheaper.
Now, leaded gas was sold up until 1996. And you remember Midgley, right? Well, it turns out right after that stunt, he took a little vacation to Florida, where he was treated for lead poisoning.
When X-ray technology was brought to shoe stores, the results weren't exactly a perfect fit.
In 1895, a German physicist, Wilhelm Röntgen, discovers a radioactive wave everywhere. He doesn't know what to call it, so he calls it the X-rays. Through the miracle of X-rays, doctors can see bones, can see structure, and then better ascertain what treatments patients will need.
A doctor in Boston, Jacob Lowe, realizes that he can use X-rays in his practice and comes up with an innovative device.
Lowe designs an X-ray machine for a foot, and it's essentially a box. The bottom of the box has an X-ray tube, and then a slot just above it for where the foot goes in, and then there's a screen on top which people can look down on and see the bones in the foot.
The device allows Dr. Lowe to examine patients suffering from foot pain without needing to remove their shoes, which gives him an idea.
Lowe is trying to figure out what to do with this machine he's invented. And then it hits him, retail shoe stores.
Lowe modifies his device and brings it to a shoe retailers convention in Boston in 1920. He names it the Footoscope, and it immediately generates a lot of interest within the industry.
Lowe starts the X-Ray Footoscope Corporation. He finds a manufacturer to build his machine and starts taking orders.
In March 1920, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reports that the footoscope helps diagnose a misaligned big toe of a local lion tamer. You can't beat that for publicity.
By the fall, shoe stores are running newspaper ads promoting this brand new device.
Soon, shoe salesmen around the country are clamoring for the machine.
These machines become standard equipment for the industry, and the result is shoe salesmen have to become these X-ray technicians. These machines are so popular through the 1930s, 40s, and into the 50s. More than 10,000 of these shoe-fitting devices are sold to stores across America.
It should be noted the absurdity of this situation. There are X-ray machines not in hospitals or laboratories administered by doctors or scientists. They're in shoe stores administered by shoe salesmen.
When you slide your feet into the bottom, you are basically standing directly on top of an X-ray tube. There is no protection at all. People are doing it repeatedly, and the shoe salespeople are in there all day getting exposed to X-rays.
Salesmen are constantly putting their hands in and out of the machines, and we know today, just to get a single dental X-ray, they throw that heavy lead thing over you just for one X-ray.
I mean, I get it. If there was a safe way for me to be able to look at my bones, I would totally take it, but that is not what happened. If you were a shoe salesman, you were around that machine all day. Your job isn't bad enough, but you're also getting bombarded with radiation.
It's not until after World War II ends that the general public becomes more aware of the potential dangers of radiation.
The atomic bomb makes radiation real for people, but that doesn't mean that stores immediately get rid of their photoscopes. After all, they paid a great deal of money for these machines, and they're incredibly effective at bringing customers into the store.
One shoe store owner has bragged that he has put his own feet in one 30 times in a single day, and he feels fine. How could a scientist argue with that?
But actual evidence begins to mount. Reports of shoe store salesmen getting radiation burns and tissue damage begins to circulate.
In 1953, the Food and Drug Administration steps in and bans the devices outright. Shoe store X-ray machines become a thing of the past.
With this next job, the women were playing with fire.
While humans have been making fire for 2 million years, it isn't until the early 1800s that we finally figure out how to do it a lot more easily.
In 1826, John Walker, a chemist in England, discovers that a piece of stick coated with certain chemicals can light on fire when scratched across his fireplace.
He calls them friction matches.
These early friction matches, they don't work that well. Sometimes they don't light at all because you have to scrape them so hard to get them going.
Luckily, by the 1840s, chemists come up with a great new solution: white phosphorus. Matches made with white phosphorus can be lit on almost any surface. With very little effort, it's a real game changer, and it's a huge innovation.
These days, we take for granted how easy it is to start a fire. But in the old days, you had to rub two sticks together or find some flint. You needed to be MacGyver, so people go nuts for these miracle fire starters. Pretty soon, there are dozens of factories that can churn out 10 million matches a day.
The factories making these matches are typically staffed by young women. It's one of the few jobs they can actually get, so in that way, it's a pretty sweet gig.
The women who work in these factories even get a cool nickname, the Matchstick Girls.
But there's a problem. White phosphorus is a very dangerous chemical.
Today, the most common use of white phosphorus is by the military for making grenades and artillery shells.
White phosphorus can burn your skin, it can burn your eyes, and it can irritate your lungs.
Their gums would glow in the dark, teeth could fall out, and prolonged exposure could make their jaws disintegrate.
Doctors at the time refer to this condition as phossy jaw.
Phossy is short for phosphorus.
You know things are pretty bad when the medical profession is coming up with this weird nickname.
Not exactly the kind of substance you'd want to handle all day, every day.
Eventually, chemists come up with a new innovation, a new product, and by 1910, white phosphorus is being phased out.